My name's Trevor Sarter.
Cool. This is the Todd Capital Millionaire podcast. This is actually episode 137. I incorrectly told you guys that the last episode, which is 136, which just dropped today, was 137, but this is actually 137. Thank you all for tuning in. The purpose of this podcast is to share the stories of successful African-American business owners and investors. But for those who don't know, my name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire, founder and director of the Todd Capital Investment Club. We have over 400 members. We got everything, and we're only going to continue to grow even more. Somebody who I know from a long, long time ago, he was like, man, you got to go private equity. You guys just got to build your private equity fund. And I was like, we might as well. So big things are happening. I always tell people that how you finish is and how you start. So we're just going to continue to grow this thing and cash out our partners in the process, make them rich in the process. With us today, we have a brother named Trevor Sarter, also known as Promise Land Real Estate Investor, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Promise Land REI. I've known this guy for a while through social media. Had a chance to link up with him when he was in downtown LA. We went to Shaq's. It was dope. And I learned a lot about his story so much that we had to bring him on the show because I feel like you guys can take a lot from his story. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much, bro. It's definitely been an honor. I definitely look up to everything you've been doing with the investment club and Todd Capital. I like tweets you just said. You got to direct the culture sometimes, and I think that's what we're on the pace to do, bro. So salute to you for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So we always start with this question, and the first question is, what was life like growing up for you?
Okay, man. Life growing up for me, it started as a two-parent household. My parents got divorced when I was about 6 years old. And up until that point, we had pretty much lived in the suburbs. My grandma, her house was in Detroit in the hood. So I had kind of that split upbringing of halfway in the suburbs, halfway in the neighborhood. My brother's 6 years younger than me. So a lot of the mistakes that I made, he learned from those, which would help me later on in life. But growing up, my grandfather was a big real estate appraiser and a developer as well. So I used to go to work with him, and my father was a dentist. He owned his own practice, and my mother, she was kind of trying to come up under my grandfather's wing. So when I used to go to work with Grandpa, I mean, he'd have a big desk, papers everywhere, maps everywhere, and I was like, man, this is what I want to do, because I used to go to work with my dad. He was doing teeth. I was like, Dad, I know you get money, man. I couldn't take the blood. But on Sundays after church, my dad had a 10-unit apartment building, but he self-managed it. So he used to have a lot of headaches. So you invest in Detroit, you know how it is. It was on the west side of Detroit on Wyoming. I used to check on it with them, and I was still always caught up in, I want to be like Grandpa, I want to be like Dad. And my mom, she did like 100-unit condo development that still stands. She sold it.
Wow.
She shouldn't have sold it. I'll just go ahead and say that. But it did make an impression on me at a young age that I knew, like, hey, because no one I really knew that was my father or mother was an employee. So it kind of, I think it was a blessing and a curse because, it gave me that rebellious streak. Like, no, I gotta own my own. I gotta pull myself up by the bootstraps. But that's kind of a little background right there, bro.
That's cool. That is dope because I didn't know that about your story. But what I did know is what we're going to talk about next. It's how you got started in real estate. So can you kind of talk to us about that?
Most definitely. So as a lot of people maybe don't know, I was a graduate of University of Georgia in '07. And, that was like the peak of the market crash or the beginning. I had to go back to Detroit. I was a little knucklehead. I got caught with some weed. And a lot of people don't know that. And my father told my lawyer to tell the judge to make me stay in Michigan or else I was going to, go get a job in Atlanta. And at that time, I was crushed because I was like, man, I need to go back to Georgia. In Detroit at that time, I mean, the plants had closed. I mean, it was just like a really bad time if you were looking at it from the mass perspective. At that time, My stepbrother was a broker in real estate. He's like, hey man, you can take these pictures from me. He had a broker's license. I'm like, man, hey, $20 a house, I'm with it. So that turned into me doing the BPOs, the broker's price opinion for him. Then he was doing very well, and it's just working out of a little house in Detroit off 7 Mile. He's like, look, we turn this up. You should get your license. You should get your license. And I'm like, all right, all right. But I was, at the time I was making decent money a week, until like 1 week we finally did get into the office, and he's like, man, it's $40,000 worth of, commissions from foreclosures. And I'm like, okay, bet. I got my textbook. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get my license. So once I got my license that December of 2008, I already kind of knew what to do, but now I had the direct option to sign up with the banks myself. And that's how I really started marketing and managing bank-owned properties. Once I did the assignments on time, the banks like the 2 to 3 day turnaround, man, they flooded me, and the rest was kind of history.
So you made your money in the beginning kind of working as a photographer.
Yeah. When I first started, I was a real estate assistant. I was a photographer for about a year almost. That year, or at least 6 months. No, it was a year, because 2007 I started. Then December 2008 is when I finally got my license.
What did you learn when you were out there being a photographer and you were out there being an assistant?
Oh man, I learned how to determine whether the property was vacant or not. That was big. I learned, what might imply that other properties in the neighborhood might be for sale or on the same street. Man, I learned how to tell if a property, kind of wear and tear issues of a property, because a lot of times I wasn't allowed to go inside, but I still had to give an opinion of the condition of the house. So I learned how to look at the roof, if the meters were missing, all kind of things like that. I also learned the zip codes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think that's dope, because I feel like a lot of people, they get into real estate and they want to go high instead of just getting in the door. But they don't know that if you get in the door, that skill set and the experience is gonna allow you to go high.
Yeah,
So I
and
think
then
that's
a lot
dope.
of times, yeah, most definitely. And then a lot of times, if it, like, to build on that point, if you're always trying to go high and you never learn the low level jobs, how are you going to manage these people that you want to work for you? You don't even know what they're supposed to be doing.
100%. So what did your first deal look like?
Oh man. So my first deal, and they were jealous of me in the office for this, because I was able to use, when you're a realtor servicing properties for the bank, they ask you for your home address. So I used my father's address, which was in the suburbs. And this is at the time of, yeah, peak foreclosure. So everybody in my brother's office, they're all getting a whole bunch of these Detroit deals, houses $1,000, 2,000. So my first deal was a property in West Bloomfield, Michigan. I remember it's Lockland Lane. It was right off of a little lake. It was worth about 1.3, and I got it listed for 550,000.
Wow. Wow.
And it didn't last. It didn't last it maybe lasted 2-3 weeks.
So what did you do with that property?
So initially they gave me the REO assignment on it. So I got it cleaned out. I got it winterized for the bank. There was no need for a board up. Got it cleaned out, winterized, all the debris in out of it. I was able to hire a few of my family members. My little brother, he was in high school at the time. Now we work together, but he helped me get it prepared, put the lockbox on it. Gave proof to the bank that everything had been done. Man, probably showed it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then we had multiple offers on it. That was my first commission, was 11,000 for the brokers, and I walked with about 8,300.
How much did that property sell for?
The property sold for 550.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
asking. It sold for full ask.
Wow. But it was worth in the millions.
Yeah, it was worth like 1.2, 1.3. And then if you think you know Michigan a little bit, so West Bloomfield's a suburb to the north. I mean, there's a lot of $1 million properties there. So it was like no secret.
I like Michigan. I got to get back out there, and I actually want to get a house in Michigan. I think there's a lot of really dope suburbs out there, and compared to where I live, you can get a nice house for $100,000, $200,000.
Yeah, 200,000 will have you sitting pretty nice, especially in areas that aren't like too suburban, like because the prices have kind of gone up a little bit in the suburbs. But
Mm-hmm.
when we say gone up, we're saying like 400,000. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
High threes, mid threes can get you a real nice house. But in the 200s, I mean, you can get something real nice in Southfield or Oak Park. I mean, places that are decent suburbs, not too far from the city either.
Mm-hmm. So are you still doing kind of agent work, or are you also doing investor work?
So now I'm doing strictly investor work. So long story short, during that time, while I was a realtor, basically from about August 2009 to September 2010, I made about $261,000 in real estate through
Wow.
commercial deals and commissions. But I was young and stupid, bro. Oh man, I uh, I was still running with a lot of the wrong cats from Detroit. You know, I thought I was the man. I thought I just, I was a money maker, and I didn't have any idea of what to do with this money once I had made it off my active income. I didn't know about all the passive income streams that we know about now. It was just like, oh, I got the hot hand. Everybody knows me. I'm gonna sell houses. The bank's gonna flood me forever. No, I took a real fast crash after about early 2011. I spent everything.
What were you spending money on? What were you buying?
Oh man, it was about 24,000 in the Sting on Michigan Ave at the strip club. That was when I looked over the 6 months. I was like, whoa, I spent 24,000 in there. And it was it was like that. I mean, I just got it. That's the real story. But a lot of it I did handle business with. Some of them were ill-advised investments. I was trying to, go too hard. Like I say, I didn't know what I thought I knew. Some things I did get ahead. I got my mom and us a condo in Royal Oak. We were kind of displaced before that, going through ups and downs. So I did a lot of things for the family too. But overall, the majority of that money was wasted. And so, man, my confidence was really down, and I stepped away from real estate for about, I would say about 2-3 years, man. Just
What year
trying
was
to
this?
figure out. This was from 2010, 2011, all the way to about 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a period there when I was just like, I didn't understand. It was a period of spiritual growth for me too. I had to mature as a man, because a lot of things that I was into were reckless, and I was like, man, I gotta grow from this. And I couldn't. When I got back into it was because of my brother, because he was like, man, like, what's going on, bro? Like, when I was in high school, you were killing it. Like, what's going on? And he's like, at this time, he had moved up to, we stayed together for a minute. I moved from Atlanta. So I went from Detroit after real estate, went to Atlanta for a while, tried to get some things going commercial wise. Really wasn't gelling for me. Then my brother was actually in TSU, Tennessee State University at the time. So he's like, bro, come out here with me. Let's put something together. Got out there with him. It was him who was like, hey, I heard about this guy, Jay Morrison, and wholesaling and investing. And like, bro, I know you, because when I was a realtor, these guys that were buying them from me, they were making the huge spreads. And that's what it really, the first light bulb went off like, hey, I want to do what those guys are doing. But it was my brother who brought me back. So fast forward, he goes up to Pennsylvania working a job. He got a good job straight out of college, and he got with YMC, Young Minds Can. He was an intern with Jay Morrison. And so I'm like, bro, yeah, take advantage of that. Like, learn what we can learn. So he got the course. He sent me the course. So we both, we got 2 for 1. Sorry,
the
Jay.
course too.
Right. So, I like to put things, I'm a hustler, bro. So I like to put things into action ASAP. If I feel like I kind of understand it, like, let's see. So our first deal after that was a church in Detroit. that one of our friends owned, and he didn't
Really?
know what to do with it. Yeah, he picked it up from a tax sale, and he had no idea what to do with it really. So, man, we was like, okay, let us wholesale it, and boom, we wholesaled it. I think that one took us about a month and a half to wholesale, and then once we got that first wholesale deal done, and like I said, I met Jay, myself, and Ty was my brother was with him a lot, so we had like a mentor with his hand on our shoulder when we first started out, so that was really helpful.
What did the numbers look like on that?
Oh man, it wasn't much, man. I think we had it under contract for like 19 and ended up wholesaling it for like 21. So we made
Wow.
like 2 grand,
I,
but it was
I,
like,
you, the crazy part about it is a lot of people, when they think wholesaling, they're like, that first deal has to be a home run. And if it's not a home run, I can't wholesale it. But
right.
these days, your deals are home runs. These days, you're doing some crazy stuff. And so I feel
Yeah.
like your story kind of speaks to the idea of getting started small and growing as opposed to not getting started at all.
And you know what? Until you said that, like I didn't really even look at it like that. But yeah, both times I always started small because I just wanted to get in the game. And that was my home run, knowing that we could do it.
Yeah,
Like, wow, like the title
right.
company was actually cool. Like it wasn't just nothing you saw on YouTube. Like okay. And and that's one of the big things that I think wholesalers don't think about, or it has stopped me in the past. Is like the wrong title company. The wrong title company can kill everything.
So how do you what do you mean by the wrong title company, and how do you find the right one?
So you find the wrong okay, so the wrong title company is ones that act like they don't know what wholesaling is at all. They're gonna they're like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're not the buyer. And it makes you gotta backtrack. Now you gotta try to educate these people. And this is no disrespect to the title companies. I got much love for them, but as us being black men, when they see you about to make an assignment fee and they're making whatever they make an hour, they ain't trying to really bend over backwards for you if that's not their mantra, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So that's the thing. Like now, as far as going to virtual wholesaling, what I do kind of now is like I make sure to scope it out. If whether it's on Bigger Pockets, Twitter, Facebook, like, hey, what title company are y'all using? Because you go ahead and put a deal together. And in Memphis, Memphis is one of my strongholds. Man, I do deals in Memphis, and I've had adversity there just trying to pull it off.
So once you find a good title company, do you stick with that title company?
Yes, yes, yes. Because you build a rapport, and that's the
Right.
name of the game. That's real estate is all based on relationships. So if you don't, you can jump and jump and jump, but if nobody knows you, they don't have any reason to show you any type of favor. You're just another
Right.
transaction.
Right. So you mentioned virtual wholesaling. Can you explain to the listeners what that is?
Virtual wholesaling, basically, like right now, I'm in South Carolina. This is where my house is now. I have never done a deal in South Carolina. My primary markets are Detroit, Atlanta, and Memphis, and Nashville as well. So virtual wholesaling is where I'm identifying a market that I see has a lot of activity, and there are a lot of hungry investors out there. And I'm identifying a certain demographic in that market, whether there's high pre-foreclosures, absentee owners in that market, or what have you. And I'm targeting them to find a deal. Oh, and one of my secrets is also joint venture. I have no problem splitting the check. A lot of people do. I don't, because 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing every time.
We haven't mentioned that on the podcast in a long time. I've said it a lot. That's a kind of staple in the Bigger Pockets podcast, but I'm
Mhm.
glad you said that.
Most
So
definitely. Mhm.
let's talk about the hedge fund stuff. I know that you have been marketing your hedge fund list,
Mhm.
and can you talk to us about that?
Most definitely. So I kind of stumbled upon the hedge funds maybe about a year ago. And what I found was that when I was marketing my Memphis properties, there were certain buyers who were like, yeah, we'll take it. yeah, we'll take it. And it was like sight unseen, and they were paying, what I was asking. They weren't, weren't opposed to my assignment fees. And so what I found out is, like, basically with these hedge funds is they have to make money. So as long as they're purchasing an asset that's making some type of return, it could be 1%, 2%. They don't care as much because they're trying to meet a quota. These hedge fund managers, they have to meet a quota. And so one of the keys is to find out what that buy box is, and that's their buying criteria. Because if you can find properties that are within their buy box, it's almost automatic. And
What is a
so
buy box?
buy box is a hedge fund's buying criteria. So if they're only doing 3-1s built after 1976, or they only want, all bricks or vinyls or whatever the case may be, that's your first step into, possibly being able to service them. So over
That's good
time,
info.
yes, sir. So over time, I was able to amass a lot of them. And what I was seeing on Twitter and on Facebook and other places was like, people who were really trying to get started, and they're like, I can't find any buyers, and I'm in this market and I'm in that market. And, sometimes it is hard to find a true cash buyer, because you got guys like me saying, hey, I'll buy it, and then I'm assigning. So, I did that to try to help, people like me get access to real hedge fund managers, and why it wasn't an issue for me to sell to, certain people, because they're all in different places, and the hedge funds buy nationwide, really globally. But I haven't had a chance, to wholesale something in another country yet. But one day that day may come. But that's what they're interested in.
That is a bar. He said hedge funds buy globally. And I think that's very important. I'll never forget. I think I was talking to somebody, and they said something about, like, it's easier to find big money than small money, because people who have big money, they literally have an obligation to put that money to work. People who have small money, they're like, man, I kind of got to pay these bills. Like, the car note is due. I can either invest or pay the car note or go to dinner. Like, that's so true. They have to find, that's their job, is to find opportunities to invest in.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the main reasons why they are less speculative than your normal investor. Like, even if you got a good buyer with you that's buying everything you send them, I mean, you're going to have to jump through some hoops. Like, hey, man, like, what about the furnace? What about the windows? What about the neighborhood? And with them, they're like, oh, is it cash flowing? Oh, it's not? Okay, what's the ARV? Okay, boom, let's go. Or a no. And it's a quick yes and a quick no. And a lot of times, when you're a wholesaler, you've only got the contract for so many days. Because I'm not, ethically, and this is how I see it, everybody doesn't see it like that, but I'm not trying to tie up somebody's distressed property for on and on and on if I know I can't sell it. That's just not right to me.
It's a waste of time.
And it's their livelihood. Like, they're depending on you to sell the house.
That's a good point.
Yes, sir.
So how are you finding properties virtually? What are you doing to find those properties?
So I have a software called REI Pro. That's kind of been my bread and butter for about a year and some change now. And it has every list that I pretty much need, and a workflow of basically 10 executable steps on contacting the owner, submitting the contract, getting the inspection. So I keep those in a workflow once I find a deal. But finding the deals, they come all kind of ways. Other wholesalers, sellers come onto my website and try to sell their properties now. Word of mouth. I still try to, sell stuff for my friends and family members. And that's what I try to encourage, like, beginning wholesalers. They're like, oh, I can't find a deal. Like, bro, you got a family. Like, somebody may need, may actually need your services.
Right,
like, really.
100%.
So, yes, sir.
I think what I take from that is, like, once you get going, opportunities come from all different angles. Like, I've experienced the same thing. It's like, once you get going, it's like, wow, like, Todd Capital Consulting was really at one point in time just doing LLCs. Now we get money all kind of ways. And so But you never really get there unless you get going with what you have. And so you get going with what you have, and then you start using the REI Pro, and you start getting deals from referrals and all these other crazy things. Like, but you got to get going. You can't sit there and not do anything because you have to create this brand, create this presence of somebody who's out there getting it, and then people will come and find you. That's dope.
No, most definitely.
What was your most successful deal?
Okay, my most successful deal was actually okay.
I lost you on the audio.
Okay.
Hopefully he catches this.
Yeah.
But I stopped you immediately because I didn't want you to start spitting bars and I don't catch them.
Okay.
So let me hold on. The audio should come back soon. I hate when it does that.
Okay. Yeah, yours. Mine back in now?
I still can't hear you.
Okay. Dang.
I don't know why it does that.
Okay. Does it cut
It
out
should come back in
sometime?
a second though.
Okay. Hold on. I may need to get. Let me.
Not yet, no.
I may need to get. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Man.
Wow. Okay. Hold on.
It's not supposed to take that long. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Let me get my charger. Let me see if my phone. Let me see if it's my phone. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get my charger. Let me see if it's my phone. Hold on. Oh no. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on.
Are you talking? Yep.
Yeah, can you hear
See,
me now?
the box is green.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know why it does that.
Dang. Can you hear me now? All right. Okay. Let me try to open up this. All right.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's going through the computer, but
Okay.
let me see
hold
one
on.
thing.
Let me see. Because I can hear you, but I can't. Okay. I couldn't see you. Can you hear me now?
It's like speaker. Hold on.
Okay.
I think my headphones might have died.
Because it looks like we good.
All right, let's do it. I can hear you again.
Okay, perfect. So my most successful deal was actually a commercial deal. I don't know if you ever seen you watch Billions at all,
Yeah.
or did you watch Ozarks?
Yes.
Okay, so remember at the end they were trying to get casino gaming passed, right?
Right.
I was actually a part of a deal like that in Michigan that was not successful. The initiative was not successful, but I assigned the rights. We were pushing to cause for 5 new casinos to be developed in Michigan. And this was a deal I was kind of brought into just because of who my grandfather was. I was not qualified. I guess I became qualified during learning in that deal, but I was not technically qualified at that time. But I learned a lot with these group of guys that kind of, mentored me and molded me and brought me into the deal. But I assigned the rights to gaming to a group of developers for $100,000.
Wow.
And so that was and a lot of people said I would never do it. I love my dad, God bless him. But he was just like, I just don't know what you're doing. You need to just get a job. Like, this is going on and on. Like,
And I was having deals. I was having spots where I wasn't closing anything, and it was frustrating sometimes. But I knew that I could do it. So I was running out of time. I called the guy and said, "Look, Brian, if you guys are serious, you'll show up tomorrow with $100,000 in my office. If not, we got nothing else to talk about." And I was so nervous because I was bluffing, man. I was really bluffing. But and that's when I saw, like, okay, and a lot of times us as Black people, we don't have that confidence. You know what I mean? And I didn't have it until that point when I knew, like, whoa, like, I have something of value. He should pay me for this. And I think a lot of times the number gets in the way of us just doing what we should do, just doing the job.
100%. So are those casinos built out, or which ones are they?
It didn't pass, bro.
Oh, right.
It didn't pass, but it was, everything was non-refundable because it was a deal of that magnitude, but it never passed. But I mean, just to be real, that was my biggest deal.
Yeah. And a lot of times these people have money to throw around.
Oh yeah, they had money. He wasn't even thinking about that 100, man. And that was different for me because 100 was 100.
Right. What was your biggest mistake in real estate?
Ooh, man, my biggest mistake. I had a property in Grand Blanc, Michigan, and I was assigned to get the work done on the property. Okay, as an REO realtor, I was assigned to, like, oversee the management of the rehab, basically. And so I got a guy to go out there. It was kind of remote. He sent me pictures of the work, but the work was never done, and I didn't check on it like I should have. So that came back to bite me very hard, and it was a real big learning lesson to check up on everything and make sure I'm thorough. And I always laugh to myself when you tell that story about contractors, because they burned me for the long one on that one. And that was one of my deepest regrets, that I didn't check back up on the property and make sure everything was good.
The crazy part about it is, I was telling my wife today, I was like, if we lived where the property was, we could just be out there on weekends just painting, drywalling, taping, and then over time you have a whole house. Right. But, like, the crazy part about it is, that's not the ideal situation. However, if you're in a situation where you've done the work and then a contractor burns you, at the very least you can save it yourself. You're not like, right, well, I guess I got to pay another contractor. Like, no, like, I can save it myself. And so there is value in doing the work and learning the work, as opposed to just, like, thinking you could just pay your way through things. And so a lot of people, they think that they have to have big money to get in the game, when really you just got to have the willingness to do the work. If you do the work, then you can't lose.
Right.
So I feel like the reason why I ask that question is because there's usually a lesson in that. The biggest mistake is also the biggest lesson. Like, there's no such thing as a mistake that's just, like, ultimately defeating, because if that was the case, you wouldn't be here today.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. No, that was a lesson. And that lesson has repeated itself. I'm not going to say I made that mistake just one time. That lesson repeated itself in another flip that I had going. And this person I trusted more. I actually knew the guy, and I was into it with a partner, and it was a hard money situation. So we got to pay the mortgage every month, and we're thinking the work's getting done. Meanwhile, I had that's the thing about having boots on the ground when you're out of town. I had one of my guys check it out. He's like, "Hey, no work's even started." I'm like, what?
I couldn't imagine.
Oh man, yeah.
The crazy thing about it is, contractors will make it seem like you are the bad guy for not paying them up front. They're like, "What you mean you pay me up front? Like, I'm supposed to start working without you paying me?" Like, they have all these different excuses and justifications for why they want to rob you, and then they rob you, and then you're like, "Damn, I my guns. Like in 2020, I'm sticking to my guns. In 2020, I fired somebody in the same day. He looked at the property. He gave me a bid. He gave me a bid of like 25 grand, just labor, not even materials. And I was like, I was actually looking to spend like 10 grand plus materials. And he was like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. And then I said like, hey, can you board up the house? We need to get it secure. He wanted to charge me $500 to board up the house plus the boards. I was like, I'm done with you, bro. Like, if you are gonna rob me in the small stuff, you're gonna rob me in the big stuff. It's like what happens. Sometimes these contractors, they'll get you in low, and then they know they're gonna get you later. They're like, okay, yeah, I'll do it for 10, knowing that if they start the work now, something pops up. They're like, oh yeah, man, the roof job was actually more than I thought it was gonna be, so you got to kick me an extra $3 grand. Oh yeah, the furnace is gonna cost me an extra $3 grand, or whatever they try to say. You need ductwork, so ductwork's gonna cost you more money. They have all these different ways to get it out of you, and that's why a lot of investors become builders. A lot of investors get their GC license. They become like almost every successful investor that I know is a builder. The only person that I don't know is a builder is Aisha, but Doug Depth is a builder. My mentor Kelvin's a builder. John Daly is a builder. And it's because you got to know that's one of the most important things. Like, yeah, real estate is forgiving in a lot of ways. So if you happen to overpay an extra $5 grand, you'll make it up in the next 6 months. But you still don't want to get fucked. I don't want you to rate me just for the sake of like real estate making away. Like I still want a fair deal.
Yeah, man. And that's when you can really tell when a guy is really solid, and they're few and far between. But when you have a solid contractor, it's so different from when you don't. Because a contractor with a legit name is gonna have enough money to start the job.
Right.
He's gonna come to you, he's gonna give you receipts on, what he's got and what that, but all that, lump sums, give me half down, that's just nonsense.
Right. The last deal we did, I paid him per task. And he hated that shit. But we got the house done. And so then the next job, he was like, all right, well, you should pay me half up front, half later. And I was like, I'll pay you a third. I'll pay you third now, third later, third after that. I paid him the first third. And he stretched it out. He ended up saying like, oh, the roof took the whole third. I paid him the second third. He took half of that third to do work on work on a different property that we had. And after that, I was like, nah, bro, like you got to go. Like I have a very low tolerance for bullshit. Yeah, and man. It's unfortunate, but it's like a lot of folks be about that bullshit. And they don't really even see, like, my goal isn't 1 or 2 homes. The goal, I told somebody, I was like, I got this, plus I got another 3 unit behind that, and I got another 2 unit behind that, and I also got a commercial property behind that. Just do right. Y'all out there trying to rate me on deal 1, deal 2, when you can eat forever messing with me. I'm not stopping.
But it's everybody doesn't have that vision of themselves, and that's the part. You have to be with like-minded individuals that see that for themselves. Like, hey, I'd rather get it in the long run than get him up front. And that's a character issue, and that's a deeper issue.
100%. So we're going to wrap it up. I think we covered a lot of everything. The last questions I always ask are, who is somebody that you look up to and why?
I would say I definitely. Okay, is it just in real estate or?
Nope, it's in general. And I tell you it's in general because your life is real estate. So that means anybody that you answer is actually going to have a real estate impact on you.
And I don't even want to seem cliche right now because I would give this answer anyway, but Kobe Bryant, and RIP to Kobe. But rest in peace. And I was a basketball player. I was All-American in high school. A lot of people don't know that. I played against Melo, whatever. But his work ethic, I feel like that can be applied to anything, in any field. And it was like every time I would get down on stuff in the last, couple years, I always throw on the Muse. You seen that? With Kobe Bryant, the Muse on Showtime? Mm-hmm. And when I watch that, it's just like, wow, like, to see him battle back from his injuries and how he responds to losses and adversities with like just sheer aggression and determination is like something that you know, I was never shown that type of like ambition like Kobe had, because even still, you know, it's normal nowadays for people to be like, oh man, it's good, just chill out, man, you'll be back, like just take it easy. And he was not like that. Like if he lost, like, you know, many stories, he's in the gym that night out of town, like stuff that you would think like, oh, that's overboard, like that's just too much. But when you see the results of it, it's like, wow, like it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It was worth it. And that's how I see myself, because it is a very competitive game. Like whatever game you're in, whether it's real estate or finance or, you know, whatever, if you're a rapper, you're a videographer, you're a producer or whatever, it's people that are very talented in your field. And I feel like Kobe went up against the best of the best in their prime and still showed that he wanted it more.
1%. That's definitely key. What is your favorite business or real estate book?
My favorite business book, period, is Richest Man in Babylon. Even though I know that's one that a lot of people say, but I feel like it's so simple that, you know, anyone can grasp it. And I like, you know, steering people towards something that they can use, whether they have a job or they don't have a job. It's just finance. And that's the fundamental for wealth building. You know, you can get into credit and all of that. That's cool. But I'm talking about just building your own bag from scratch. I think that's something that we were never really taught as a people. So that's like that's a book that I mail to people on the holidays, is Richest Man in Babylon.
So I would like to argue that while that book might seem simple, I think it's actually very deep. The principles on the fundamental level, they're like basic, but once you start to explain why stuff is the way it is, I'm like, wow, like that's some fire stuff. Like he was talking about just like owning your own home. And every time on the internet we get into this argument of like renting or buying, but when he actually went through the different reasons for why you need to own a home, none of them had anything to do with money. It was all like holistic, right? Like lifestyle stuff. Nothing like, oh, you're going to make a lot of money. Oh, it's going to cash flow. Like, he's like, no, like your wife wants you to own a home. Your kids want you to own a home. Like nothing had to do with getting rich. I thought that was so dope. So like, as I get older and I read that book again, I'm like, that is all just so many gems in that book. And I actually still need to read some more because just like gems, I read it a long time ago. And I feel like when you're young and you only really understand personal finance at like a really young level, you just get the gems. Like, what does the heading say? Okay, let me read what it says. Okay. But then once you start to like, you got to dig deeper because as you get older, a lot of these things get challenged. People challenge the fundamental principles that you believe in. And so you got to really dig in and say like, well, why do I do it this way? Somebody's going to come and say, well, the house is not an asset, so don't own it. But why do I do it? Oh, it has something to do with the fact that it's going to cash flow or that it takes money out of my pocket, because renting takes money out of your pocket. Everything takes money out of your pocket. But what are the other things that happen and benefit you outside of money coming in or coming out? Like that is why I like that book a lot.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. That's what led to me coming out here. I was in Nashville paying rent. I had this house. And you know, you get tired. As far as, you know, apartment life is like you got inspections, you know, somebody's coming in. And you know, when you like I got three children, but I got two small boys. And it's like, man, sometimes you're just chilling with your kids. You don't want nobody coming inside. Like that's your home. And you don't have that feeling of ownership when it's an apartment. It's just because you don't own it. So that's where it really spoke to me.
Yep, I love that book. What sets apart successful investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I would say consistency. Consistency, no matter if you won the last one or you lost the last one, that ability to get up and keep going. I think that's, and also knowing how to adapt. And I think that kind of goes into consistency, but being able to adapt your business model to what's going on right now and not hanging on to old wins or old losses.
100%. I love it. Man, my last question is no, I'm not going to ask you that question yet. I'm going to ask you, what is your best real estate investing advice?
My best real estate investing advice is however you get into real estate, whether you're a realtor, whether the barrier of entry is a wholesaler, invest for the long run, man. Like these checks, these commissions, these profits, they come and go. Reinvest in yourself and buy and hold and don't sell. That's my advice.
Buy and hold and don't sell, even if they get mad, and they will get mad.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find out more about you? Where can they support what you have going on? Where can they find the Millionaire merch? And where can they follow you on social media?
Yes, sir. So first of all, the website, www.promiselandrealtyllc.com. The merch is there. They can book consulting there. They can also sign up to get deal of the day on my buyer list as well. We got deals all across the country, and they can submit deals there. We're always looking for tenant occupied properties as well. You can follow us on Instagram at Promise Land Realty. My brother runs that site, Tyler Sarter, my right-hand guy, and you can follow me on Twitter at Promise Land REI.
Dope, man. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this conversation. I learned a lot about you, and I think that, just a lot of gems were dropped. A lot of information was released. So if you guys are interested in anything he has going on, in fact, you should be interested. Just hit him up, follow him on social media, book a consult, check out the merch because it's super fire. And, he's doing some great stuff where he is. I could have swore he was in Detroit, though. I didn't know you were in South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm from Detroit. I just got back from Detroit like a month ago. Just got back to my house. I was up there for 2 months working on deals and stuff. But yeah.
So I think the plan is for everybody to be in Detroit at the end of March. So I should be out there. I think Josh, maybe Xavier will be out there. And we'll connect with a lot of Detroit folks. We should just put together like a whole Detroit meetup. Maybe get Rashawn out there, even though she doesn't answer the phone.
So yeah, Rashawn out there killing Chicago. That's our cousin over there anyway.
Right, it's right down the street. So this is the real episode 137. The last one was the fake one that was 136. Nevertheless, we're going to keep bringing this real estate investor knowledge to the people. Like I said, you can follow us on social media at Todd Billy, at Partner with Millie, at Blessed Black Man, at Todd Capital. And I think that's all the Instagram pages that I have and social media pages that I have. Website is www.oglesbyholdings.co. The business website is www.gumroad.com/Todd Capital. Make sure you support our sponsors. Terry, Trade and Travel Terry. I'm an investor on Instagram. www.investor101.org for her trade and travel program. Also check out Erica Classy Climb and everything she has going on. The Hood Estate Elite program, trucking and real estate, both in the bio. And Charm City Buyers and 24/7 watches. Check out Donald the Voice. Shout out to Donald the Voice for everything he does for the podcast. If you guys don't know, that's the person who does the intro and the outro and the edits and all that stuff. So shout out Donald the Voice. This is episode 137, the real episode 137. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire, signing off. Dope, man.